Welcome to another edition of MrTruck.com with Trucks Towing Trailers. We're here today with a 2015 Ford F350 King Ranch. And here helping me is...
Kelsey.
And how much power does this King Ranch have?
Got 440 horsepower to 860 foot-pounds of torque.
Awesome. That should get us up the hill. And we're going to load some of Kelsey's tractors on this load trail today. So come join us.
Side steps to get in. Nice, pretty, comfy seat. It's got the W's on the inside for the Flying W King Ranch. The steering wheel's a nice size, fits in my hands. Oh, maybe. Oh, yep. Tilt and telescoping. They've got something right. Foot controls, no, automatic, that's nice. Yep, nice automatic powered pedals. They've got the mirrors that automatically, power mirrors that go in and out for when you're towing. That's nice. But they've also got the power fold in, and it folds in both at the same time. That's nice. Makes it really nice. Nice, lots of room, big pockets, lots of storage everywhere in the doors and the center console. Little cup holder and flat space, armrests, that's nice. Nice compartment under the seat, that's nice. Greasy ball bag, hide it. Oh, you can lock your seat down. That's nice. There's a 12-volt outlet in here. I do not see the car seat latches in the bottom. Wonder if there's any back here. Yep, we got one. One behind every seat. That doesn't help if we've got a family with small kids, though.
Yeah, the bottom tethers are pretty important. This one's missing.
Yeah, they're not in here. Makes it very hard for families with small children.
Yeah.
So you're gonna spend a bunch of money on a truck, you wanna be able to haul the family around.
That's true, especially a crew cab.
Yep. Ford, where's my side step back here?
You want one on the bumper or you want one underneath the bumper?
Underneath the bumper, in the bumper, anything's better than none.
That's true, now you gotta jump up there.
Good thing I'm flexible, Ford. So on this trailer we got the shocker hitch, takes a lot of the jerk out, and it also has this nifty airbag right here that kind of works like a teeter-totter. Then it's also equipped with these bushings. They help. Should do pretty good.
Yeah, isolates the truck and the trailer.
It does isolate the truck and the trailer.
Awesome.
Hey look, there's this nifty step. You got a full chain box here. Nice place to store your chains. Makes it easy. Keeps everything clean, lock them down, keep them in. Yep. Don't take my tractors. It's nice. Let's get this 30-20 on the trailer. trailer ramps. I'm fired. Well, let's see. Oh, they're light. Not too bad. It's a really nice backup camera and it stays on quite some time.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
There's in reverse. Oh, I can zoom in on something.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. That's your ball lineup.
Yeah, that's far
neat.
out. Yeah. Now, what is this cool thing up here? It's got a lot of stuff in there, huh?
Oh, you got your speaker cords, your aux cords, I'm guessing.
That's what a 12-volt plug-in too. Oh, that's SIM for the
Your SIM,
navigation
your GPS.
again.
Yep,
Yeah.
don't lose your card.
Okay. That is pretty cool. I like this dash. Now, if you notice, it's got these outfitter switches down there. And that's so you can put, that's the brake controller.
Brakes.
Yeah,
Oh, we
that's
can put
actually...
auxiliary lights and everything.
Yeah, and your
too.
snow plow, that's what all those switches are for.
That's
And then the
nice.
brake controller on this is where it's supposed to be. You can actually get to it. In 150, they put it down lower, so I do like the brake controller right there. But yeah, it's a nice layout. See, I'm really fond of the way the inside of this looks. That is your exhaust brake. It's your exhaust brake button.
Does it work?
Yeah, this one actually works. That started in 2015. They put a bigger turbo on, and it works.
All right, we'll have to
Yeah.
use it.
And then the tow mode is in the end of the shift stem. Yeah, this console's got lots of room, but not all of it stays in place.
I'm
Similar
trying.
to the 150. These used to be the biggest crew cabs in the market. Now I think it's the smallest. Well, how does this fit you? I know these seats are a little wider. That's why they fit me so well. But
They're comfortable. They're really comfortable. I like the big gauges on the dashboard.
yeah, I'm fond of the dash
Nice.
layout here. They've all gotten so good, all three truck makers, but this is done well. Yeah, Ford's been known for the big towing truck, and you got a long trailer back there. I guess you'll figure out which mailbox to knock over.
Not mine, just the neighbors.
Yeah, you made that corner really well. That's 30-foot long trailer back there. Yeah, you turned the first corner well. A 30-foot trailer, you didn't take out anybody's mailboxes. The giant camera on the back was nice. Now this, Ford's been, kind of ahead of everybody on towing. They were the first ones to put integrated brake controller. They've always been a leader in the towing mirrors. With these power telescope, power fold. They're one of the biggest mirrors out there. I think Ram actually extends out a little further, but Ford's fenders are not big on these. They changed those 2011, so the smallest fenders. You got about the best visibility on a dually with these Fords. So, I'm a fan of how they are for towing. It seems like they paid attention to that, except for a few other things. We'll talk about the greasy balls syndrome, because I'm not fond of how they've done their gooseneck balls lately. Getting back up to speed. What were you saying about this truck?
I said this truck, it is one of the more comfortable trucks going around the corners. It doesn't lean as much. It's sturdy.
And I think the reason for that is it's got front and rear stabilizers,
That's nice.
which I think they need. I mean, a lot of these truck companies have gone where they just put them in the front, they don't put them in the rear. Well, an empty truck is really bad about swaying around back there, movement, and you always want to control that lean. So I think it's a good idea to have rear stabilizer, and this has it. I'm glad to see Ford do that. And this is a prototype. They just ran out of trucks, so they tried to get us as many as they could. So it's not full production model, so I don't have exact cost numbers on this, but it's a little over $67,000 if you spec'd it out. But this has got all the cool stuff. It's got the clearance lights. It's got the whole King Ranch package, the Flying W Ranch down there in Texas. I think that all came out in like '99 when I first started doing this. It was on the 2003 model, and I knew back then. One of the press launches, I got a leather portfolio on a wood pin from the Texas ranch. They have a saddle shop there in the store.
Tom, they need
Those
to
were
throw in a
pretty
saddle for every King Ranch I drive.
Yeah, we
for
should.
them.
We should get a saddle. That sounds like a good plan. This has a 110 watt, 110 volt. So you can plug in a lot of stuff in this one. Okay.
There's outlets all over this one.
Yeah, a lot of 12-volt
nice.
outlets. That's what you need to make a nice office out of it. Or if you're gonna haul a family, everybody wants to be plugged in. I like how the Ford does everything in one button. The telescope is one latch. The mirrors is one knob. And then these are fantastic mirrors on this. Hill start assist. This also has the traction control, which they didn't do to dualies for a few years. Now they all have it. And you need that. I mean, it's different than locking rear end. It actually uses the ABS brakes. It works a little faster than the locking differential or the outdated dash, but I like it. I always like the looks of the inside. It's got 3 or 4 different color combinations, from dark brown to light brown to tan. And it's got one of the biggest windshields of all the trucks too. I think we got the best visibility that wise. Your windshield's a little closer than in some of the other trucks too. We're having trouble with some of our cameras, making sure we get our fisheye all in focus here. But no, it's amazing. This used to be the biggest cab, and it's still a large cab, but not the biggest anymore. So we just need to get a CB in here. Need to be a regular trucker. So what is your CB handle? Do you have a CB handle?
Nope.
Nope. Well, I'm Wet Whiskers.
You Wet Whiskers?
Yeah, Roman of TFL, he's Iron Dumpling, whatever in the world that means. So we're all going to get some CBs and do our thing. It's a nice rough road to test out on. Big spotter mirrors. On my trucks, I usually put 2 spotter mirrors on each side. But, you know, and I do that so when you turn a corner, one spotter mirror will be on the trailer, making sure I'm not hitting the curb, and the other one will be down low, making sure that the little cars don't sneak up on you, because that can happen. That's what you see most semis will have 2 spotter mirrors. Yeah, little cars sneak up in your blind spot, and then when you turn the corner, you need 1 spotter mirror to see if your tires are hitting the curb or hitting the car or hitting the line or any of that stuff.
Ford did something right. Here's your valve stem, and oh look, my hand fits in here, and here's my other valve stem back in here.
That's good. So the big holes on the wheels is a good thing.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah, because sometimes you gotta reaching that inside one's what you gotta have it for. That makes sense. I like those. And it's just like the trailer wheels are the same way.
Yep. I'll get my head out of there.
Yeah, so you can reach in there. That's where they should be. Yeah, you gotta get that inside dual. Mr. Truck here. I want to talk to you about Ford's Gooseneck ball. This is the integrated one that comes with the truck. It's standard with the 450. It's an option with the other heavy Super Duties. This one is set up with 4 stations to connect a 5th wheel to. You take out the pucks that we're using for the chains, and you take the ball out, and then you put your 5th wheel. I think it's a re-signature too in here. But the pucks are unique. Your chain fits in there, and that's your safety chain connection. And I like the back one so I can reach it from the rear end. Doesn't really matter where you put them for the safety chain, you're the same distance from the ball. Now you got to take them out though to get a flat bed, so that's kind of inconvenient. And I'll show you what the Aftermarket looks like that we've been using for decades. The ball is a 2 5/16. It's rated at 26,700. It's basically the same ball, a little different than what Ram uses, and theirs is rated at 30,000 pounds on a 2 5/16 ball. On Ford, to go 30,000 pounds, you have to go to the F450 and the 3-inch ball. The 3-inch ball is what they use all over Australia. It's kind of a new thing here in the United States. But Ford's ball, to get it out of the hole, you actually have to get a hold of the greasy ball and pull this lever up. And then there you go, and you can see that ball. There's a ball that goes through, that's your check ball, and that's what this lever holds out, pushes out to hold the ball in place. In the Aftermarket, you just flip this over and it's out of the way. With Ford and Ram, you got to put it in a special pouch. This is kind of a pain. You get grease on your hands, and I don't know if this top piece is plastic or aluminum, whatever it is, but that is how you attach the ball. So you're always going to get greasy somehow. You have to use gloves or whatever to take this greasy ball out of here. Then you got to put it in the pouch, and you got to go put it somewhere. Same way with your pucks. You take them out and you put them somewhere. They come with a pouch as part of the kit. So I am going to take those out for the next guy who uses this truck. But I don't really like this setup. And I don't like that it is 26,700 pounds. You buy any Aftermarket ball for the last probably 20 years, whether it's a pop-up hitch, B&W hitch, Cody hitch, whoever you want to use, this ball is 30,000 pounds with most of the Aftermarket, actually almost all of them. but that's not what these guys did, and I'll show you the aftermarket how that attaches. But anyway, I'm going to take this greasy ball and put it in the pouch that's part of the kit. But that's what you have. You have a greasy ball and you have your 2 pucks that now I've got to go put somewhere. So here is the bag that comes with the Ford ball, and I can put the safety chain pucks into this bag, and then I have to put the greasy ball into a greasy ball bag. It's a little baggie. So here's what I've got. I got this puck that I can put back where the ball was, which is a pain to get in and out, and then I can put these pucks into the baggie that comes with this kit, and then the greasy ball goes down in the bottom. Putting these together, and at the bottom is the greasy ball bag. That's where I'll put that greasy ball, and then I'll put it in the bottom of this pouch. Oh well. Now this is my truck with a very typical setup for gooseneck hitches. Underneath there's a lever. This is the pop-up brand. B&W is real similar. A lot of the major brands are similar. But on this particular brand, you flip this sideways. It's a cam. Now the ball's unhooked inside. It's just lift it out. B&W, you have a rod in the same position that you pull out. Now, up on top of my truck, I get in here, I pull the lever in the fender well, and now there's the ball. And it's 2 5/16, rated 30,000 pounds. I'm going to take my good old greasy gloves and take the ball out of the socket, and that's what it is. Then all you basically do is stick the ball back down into the socket. Now you got a flush floor. It's out of the way. It's got a little pin on top you can pull out with your finger. So now I don't have it in my cab in a bag with grease. And here's what the tie downs look like. Tie downs for most aftermarket are U-bolts. When they are out of the way, they're below the ribs of your truck bed. So now I have a flat floor. I didn't have to take the pucks out. I didn't have to take the ball and put it in the bag. I just turned it over. This is the setup that I like. This is what we've been using for decades as an aftermarket gooseneck ball hitch. Now I'll take it back out, grab that pin. Yeah, and this part can be greasy, but the greasy ball does not go back into my truck. The greasy ball stays in the socket. The hole on the trailer. Putting it back in there. And now it's back in, and I don't have to mess with it inside my cab. Of course, now I'll go back under the fender well and trip that lever, which is what locks this ball into place under the fender well. I know I've been told that there's focus groups that didn't like to stick their hands into there. Well, you stick your hands in a fender well, if mostly would be mud, and you know, if you get a little mud on your hands, it's not a big deal. But getting this heavy duty grease on your hands from a gooseneck coupler, that's a whole different story. It is smelly, sticky, and you get it on your blue jeans, and you'll know it because it'll be there for the next 5 years. Very hard to get that grease out. Let me get back down. Climb out of the bed. Either way, you got to climb into the bed to do this procedure, whether it's Ford Ram or Aftermarket. Aftermarket now, I just go back here, flip this lever back, my ball's locked into place.
I keep hearing that noise and I don't know what it is. It's the chains. I hear the chains.
Oh, the chains, yeah, they're rattling in the bed. Yeah, that's the thing about GM, I don't think have gone to this, but Ram and Ford both have attachments for their beds, so you can go fifth wheel or gooseneck. So that means 4 puck holes, and 2 of them used for safety chains. Well, then you got, if you want a flat bed, you got to take those 2 out, plus you got to take the ball out, the greasy ball. Where what we've had for years, you know, the pop up and B&W and all these other aftermarkets, they have U-bolts that go up for your safety chains, and then they fit down into the slots, you know, the corrugated floor. So all you do is turn the ball over, you're done. Where now with Ford and Ram, it's a 3-position thing you got to move out and take apart. And anyway, I'm not fond of this setup, and I thought I was their ideal buyer demographic. I guess I'm not anymore.
They're just trying to fit everybody's needs.
Yeah. And two, a lot of those people that are doing their focus groups aren't trailer people, aren't people who do this all the time. And so they're, there's not a whole lot of background that they're using their opinions from. I think they ought to talk to people who tow trailers every day before they make a decision on what they're going to do with the gooseneck ball and their tie downs and their safety chain brackets and all this. I think they need to ask me, actually. Every time they make a change, anything to do with towing, they need to talk to Mr. Truck. Give him a call. I'll give you my opinion. I'll be glad to give you guys my opinion. Any OEMs who want an opinion on towing trailers and what you guys need to do or what I would suggest or any of that, I'd be just glad to help you out, free of charge. It'll be our little secret. Just tell me what your problem is, and
You
I'll
just
help
told
you solve
everybody
it.
your little secret.
Well, no, I just told them that I would help solve those problems. I didn't say what each individual thing was, but
I understand people don't want to get dirty and stick their hand in the wheel well, but how much dirtier are we getting grabbing that greasy ball,
Yeah.
putting it in that bag, and having to wash our hands than grabbing the lever in the wheel well?
yeah, and the lever itself, Ram they'll actually interchangeable. The Ford and Ram balls will fit in each other's bracket on the OEM goosenecks. But so it's a little check ball at the bottom that the lever opens and closes the spring on. But on a Ram, you have a little tab at the bottom, so you don't have to touch the top of the ball. And I think that's a stronger place to have it. Ford puts this plastic tab on top of the ball, and so you have to lift the greasy part of the ball up. And then now it means you have a hole going from the top of the ball clear to the bottom.
Yep.
So I don't know what that does to strength, but I really don't like that idea. Just like in race cars, you get universal joints with and without grease zerks. The grease zerk ones have a hole that goes all the way through the universal joint. A lot of people who race don't want that hole weakening the universal joint. So I'm wondering, is that the same thing on a greasy ball, on a gooseneck ball, having a hole go from top to bottom? Does that make it weaker? Especially with used trucks. They might buy a used Ford truck, even a 450, and if they have the 2 5/16 ball, they may think it's rated at 30,000, and it's not. They've got to go 3-inch ball, which means, what are they going to do? Are they going to have to redo their trailers, buy new trailers? What do we got to do to go to this 3-inch ball?
Trips.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard in Australia, but we're not in Australia, so it's a problem here, and I worry about the guys buying these used trucks and thinking that they're rated higher than they are. And this is a 373 ratio. The other ratio on this is...
I don't think they're open today.
It may not be.
It's Easter.
See the cars there?
Nope.
Probably not. It's Easter, so they probably are home. But it's 373. The other axle ratio, again, this is a 430, which is, give the maximum towing capacity, but then it would really hurt your fuel mileage. And this, the interesting part too, is this is a 14,000 GVW, gross vehicle weight rating. And that's what the Ram 3500 is, 14,000. That's what the Ford F450 is, 14,000. So I'm not sure why Ford has two trucks that are both GVW at 14,000. They give up higher towing capacity on the 450. Now we're coming down the hill, so you can see how the grade shifting is and the exhaust brake. I know these things are very controlled. We're at about 60 miles an hour, but you're probably going slower than that because you need a certain amount of RPM to build up back pressure to make the exhaust brake work well. And this one works really well.
So far, it's drove really nice.
Yeah, it's a good handling truck.
There's the grade shift.
Yep, this Ford does one of the better jobs of grade shifting. And it'll grade shift at higher speeds, where a lot of the trucks, especially on the Ram, it does great grade shifting at slow speeds. But you really need that help in the high end. I mean, their exhaust brake, they got a 2-stage exhaust brake, which is pretty cool. You can use a full exhaust brake at the higher speeds. Ford has, the one setting just like GM does for the exhaust brake, but Ford does a really good job of this, controlling it. It's especially when you think that they had no exhaust brake in 2011 and 2014, even though they said they did. There was no button for it. You couldn't prove it worked, but I didn't think it worked at all. And it's because of that smaller turbo. This one with this large turbo does a very good job of exhaust brake. I'm very happy with how this is handling now.
That and who doesn't want a larger turbo?
Yeah, yeah, that does help with the performance. I think you lost a little bit on the fuel mileage, but
We don't buy these trucks for fuel mileage.
Yeah, I mean, some of the commercial guys do, but you know, it's all relative. I'm more concerned about passing people at road speed and getting up and going than I am some fuel mileage. Of course, if fuel gets back up to $5, I'll probably have a whole different version.
Yes, we will.
Of my assessment, but right now, I like the power. Is this a one road lane? Oh my golly, we're green. Look at that.
I know. That's why I didn't say anything. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. Had me kind of worried there. I saw our lane disappear. That, uh-oh. But you know what you're doing. You know, this ball here, 2 5/16 for Gooseneck, is only rated at 26,700. If you want to go 30,000 pounds, you have to go to the 450 and get the 3-inch ball.
Okay.
Where Ram, their 2 5/16 ball is rated with the OEM Gooseneck ball is rated 30,000 pounds, as is in almost every aftermarket Gooseneck ball out there. Pop-up Hitch, B&W, Cody Hitch, used to be Valley, all those guys, their Gooseneck ball aftermarket is rated 30,000 pounds. So why is Ford rated 26.7? They're saying it's a test issue. That's where they thought above that weight, that's where there's some kind of an aware problem. And I guess, I'm not doubting their word on that. I'm just saying that all the trucks I've had in the last 40 years, I've never seen a 2 5/16 ball break.
No.
So, I don't know. And I've towed some pretty darn heavy weights with it. Well, that's true, and I've seen GM come with a program like that where you can borrow the truck for the weekend. And of course, I had to go put a trailer on it, but I was one of the first journalists that I knew of that was actually towing trailers with everything I reviewed. And that's 12 years of doing that. So I'm all about trailer safety and knowing what they'll do. So I always insist on it, and that's what I tell the media organizers that give us these vehicles is that I want a hitch on the truck or don't bring it to me. And sometimes I have some controversy there. These guys don't bring me the right vehicles, but I always want a receiver hitch on it. Now we're starting to ask for gooseneck hitches, which has been hard to get, and I'm very tickled that we have them. But most consumers, when they're trying to evaluate a truck, if they pull trailers, they want to know how it tows, and they can't just go pick up a truck off a lot and then go hook up to their trailer. Not usually. Sometimes you can. Most of the time you can't. So that's why I always insisted on being able to tow trailers with all the review trucks I get. When I'm on media launches, I always insist on having trailers. And, that's just how it is. But you want people to understand a little bit how these vehicles tow and how well they tow. And, we're all about towing safety, trailering safety. So, I've always towed trailers. I've been towing trailers for 40 years, and it's so much easier now. In the old days, you could buy the wrong axle ratio, and you could buy, a lot of the wrong options on a truck for trailering. And now, you get these big diesels like this. They all come with exhaust brake. They all come with integrated brake controller. They all come, with just a few axle ratios, and you can hardly buy the wrong ratio. Once in a while, you get the wrong one for fuel mileage. But people used to buy the wrong one. They would heat their truck up, pulling these mountains. And that's another reason that, I love working with you in the mountains like this. And then what I do with fast lane trucks. We tow trailers at serious grades high in the mountains. And that's always a good test on a truck. But, it's getting harder and harder to buy the wrong truck. You can get the wrong ones for other reasons. But, this is the most competitive I've ever seen the big three out of Detroit. They've really gotten close together, which is amazing. Yeah, it's good. It's good for everybody. Competition's always good for everybody. Improves things. And trucks definitely are improving very fast.
Well, that if we don't have any reviews out on how the truck tows a trailer, you normally don't buy a truck just to drive it. At some point, hopefully you're going to have a trailer behind it, and hopefully you're going to want to know what it does.
Right. There are some people in the half-ton class that buy it and they just use it for Starbucks or hauling a lawnmower, but people buy the heavy-duty class, at some point they're going to have some weight in it. They're going to have payload or trailers or both. It's what they're made for.
I will give everybody props who tows trailers daily, whether it's in a semi or a pickup. I couldn't do it, and it's a big job.
Yeah, I always wanted to drive a semi. I've driven semis and done all those things, but I've I've never gotten to go over the road with them. I've always done short hauling with it, whether it's dump tail or belly dumps or backhoes and bulldozers. I've hauled all that stuff, but coast to coast, I think that would be so fun. An 18-wheeler, go coast to coast, see the country. I wouldn't want to do it every day, on these winter passes and some of these grades and in the rain and the crazy drivers out there.
Yes.
You just got to kind of figure everybody on the road with you is insane, because that's how it works out.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And that's the way they're going to think about you too, so.
Yeah, most of them just don't give you any credit for having a trailer. They don't understand it takes you longer to stop. You need more room to turn. And, these poor semi guys, they get, they just don't get the respect they need on the road. It's driving 80,000 pounds, 85,000 pounds, and you need to remember that. Give these guys room.
And the semis and the bikes, yes, they need room.
Yes, we're giving the bikes more room, and definitely a plateau and a trailer we're trying to yield to them.
This trailer's nice. It's been pulling nice.
Yeah, this
is the hitch or?
Well, no, the hitch helps isolate the vibration too, and the shock. That's why it's called the shocker hitch. Because the truck and the trailer are hooked together pretty tight with a ball, much better than what a kingpin is on a fifth wheel. And so this actually does a good job, because the truck and trailer being tied together that tight, the truck feels everything the trailer feels. The trailer feels everything the truck feels, whether you have horses in the back. But in this situation, that isolation of the movements of the truck and trailer is a good thing. And this load trail, this is their big one. This has 12,000 pound axles. It's only 30 foot long, which, as far as goosenecks, a lot of them are 40 foot for the hot shotters, but it's the right size for us, so we don't run into too many things. We can still load cargo. But this has 12-inch I-beam frame. It has a torque tube, a 5-inch torque tube that goes down the middle. So you look in your mirrors, and you pull a load trail, they will not shake, up and down, left and right. They're like hauling a rock back there. And they pull very easily, but they don't move. They're solid trailers. And this one we're running empty. We loaded the tractor, but you don't have a CDL, so I don't want this thing to be looking too commercial, so I think we'll be fine. And you pulled lots of goosenecks this year. You know what you're doing. But yeah, I like this trailer. I like this truck. Exhaust brake, you got that on. Do you have the tow mode on too? Push that on, the light should come on. Yeah, this trailer empties like 8,000 pounds. So you do have something back there, even though you may not feel it.
No, it feels like nothing right now.
These self-adjusting brakes on there, so at the end of the day, we may have to back off on the gain a little bit. If we run too much in the city, we're heading up to the mountain. Yeah, you can punch it anytime you want. We don't have any horses on board to get upset back there. So.
Let me get around this corner.
Oh, you don't like the high-speed corners?
It's a little bit steep.
That's my new sport, is trailer drifting.
Trailer drifting?
Yeah, it's 90 degrees with the trailer, sometimes 180.
All right, as long as it's not my truck.
Yeah.
Stuck with trailers too often.
Yeah. Well, it's weird with this. This trailer's called a deck over because it's a flat bit above the axles. And so it's 8.5 feet wide, 102 inches, which is the maximum you're allowed without a permit. But all my trailers are, the Logan horse trailer we haul, fender to fender is 8.5. It's, 7.3 in the body. The Logan Coach black tilt trailer we have, fender to fender, it's 8.5 foot. And then it's got a 7-foot body between the fender wells. So, it just seems with these, you notice it more, but they're all 8.5 that we use. And these narrow roads, I don't know if they're 9 feet or what, but there's not a whole lot of room on each side of the trailer. You gotta really find your spot.
Definitely gotta be comfortable.
That's true. I think the interstates are 12 feet wide, so you got a nice lane, you can cruise along here, but on secondary roads, you've got 10 foot and less, and you've got to really watch, get your bead down that road where you find the center in relationship to your seat. So you're handling this big trailer really well.
Not too bad, I didn't think.
Yeah.
All right.
it's all in-house. Actually, the transmission and the engine is all built by Ford.
Okay.
You know, with GM, you got the Allison, which I think now is separate from GM. It's actually owned by Allison. And then their Duramax, they still, you know, work with the Zuzu on that. So it's, you know, Zuzu combination. And of course, Ram is Cummins. And then the heavy-duty applications, they use the Ison transmission, which is 50% owned by Toyota. It's for the heavy-duty applications, the Hinus, and those low-cab forwards. So you got Ford making their own products, which is impressive. You know, being the leader in these cells and making their own engine and transmission. I like that idea. Brake effort. Wow. Wow, that is a new thing. I don't remember seeing that before. Low, medium, and high on how much your brake effort is for your trailer. Wow, I guess if you want it really sensitive or not sensitive. That's interesting.